I want to read Psalm 4 for you in preparation for prayer meeting tonight. And my question really is, what's the best way to respond when we are in distress, when we are distressed? Psalm 4. Answer me when I call to you, O my righteous God. Give me relief from my distress. Be merciful to me and hear my prayer. How long, O men, will you turn my glory into shame? How long will you love delusions and seek false gods? Know that the Lord has set apart the godly for himself. The Lord will hear when I call to him. In your anger, do not sin. When you are on your beds, search your hearts and be silent. Offer right sacrifices and trust in the Lord. Many are asking, who can show us any good? Let the light of your face shine upon us. O Lord, you have filled my heart with greater joy than when their grain and new wine abound. I will lie down and sleep in peace, for you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety. Have you ever been kept up at night with thoughts in your head? Most of us have. I want to encourage you this morning to respond to distress and anxiety and worry in this way. So you begin in verse 1, and David is basically praying to the God who answers prayer. And by verse 8, he says, I will lie down and sleep in peace. For you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety. And in the middle, there are three antidotes to three different personality problems. You might react to distress in different ways. One of which, in verses 2 to 3, is what we might call fickleness. So in verse 2, he says, How long, O men, will you turn my glory into shame? Will you love delusions and seek false gods? David's been let down. There have been people who were following him and then let him down. Fickle people. They were, as it were, hunting with the hounds and running with the hares. You know, whichever way the wind was blowing, that was the way they went. And of course, we can be fickle too. We can be very fickle. We can seek after all kinds of things that we think are going to make us happy. But David says that the Lord sets the godly apart. The Lord will hear when I call to him. God is not fickle. And the antidote to us who flit here and there seeking all kinds of different solutions to make us happy is to remember that God will not abandon us. At night, if you are tempted to turn away, to try other things, to forget God, to seek after anything that might bring you hope or pleasure other than him, remember, he has chosen you. He says to the world and the cosmos, when he looks at you, you're mine. I'll hear you when you call to me. So to the fickle, remember God is faithful. To the angry, remember that you need forgiveness and God offers you forgiveness. If you're in distress, another temptation is to get angry, to get frustrated, to want to fight against it, to, as it were, in the words of the poet, to rage against the dying of the light, somehow to fight the cosmos, to fight God, to fight other people. David was betrayed. I'm quite sure that he was at night thinking about the ways that he could stick a sword in his enemies. But here he says, look, in your anger, do not sin. In your agitation, don't sin. When you're on your beds, search your hearts and be silent. It's so easy, isn't it, to be angry with God, to be angry with ourselves, to be angry with other people. Blame, blame, blame. And David says, if that's you, search your own heart, be silent. In other words, look inside. And then in verse 5, offer right sacrifices and trust in the Lord. You need forgiveness, not God, not other people. You, we, me. And the solution, if we're angry and frustrated, is to remember that we need God's forgiveness and that he offers it. He's provided the sacrifice in the Lord Jesus. Why can we get so cross? It's because we forget what we actually deserve and what Jesus does for us. So in distress, if you're fickle and you're hunting after all kinds of things other than God to make your life happy, remember that he's faithful. And if you're frustrated, remember he offers forgiveness. And lastly, if you're looking to fill up your life, or if you're gloomy, remember his light. You have filled my heart, verse 7, with greater joy than when wine abound. Verse 6, many are asking, who can show us any good? Let the light of your face shine upon us. Remember Eeyore? Glass is always half empty. Everything's bad, everything's gloomy, everything's dark. You need the light of God to shine upon you. God gives joy greater than anything this world can offer. So if you're the sort of person who is an Eeyore, tempted to be down, depressed, gloomy, miserable, pessimistic, here's the solution. You need the light of God's face to shine on you. And you need to remember that God will fill your heart, has filled your life with greater joy than even the grain and the new wine. All the secular pleasures of this world are nothing compared to God. You have filled me with joy. So to the fickle, we need to remember that God is faithful. To the frustrated, you need to remember that you need forgiveness and God gives it. And to those who are failing, to those who are gloomy, you need to remember that God offers joy. And you too can lie down and sleep in peace, because God will make you dwell in safety. If you're distressed, cry out to him like verse 1. Trust him for verse 8. And if you're dealing with it in the wrong way, remember that your answers are all found in God.